Welcome to part 2 of my X4 Foundations Trade Empire tutorial. In part 1 we discussed beginner trade mechanics, and now we will start talking about the basics of building, namely how to obtain blueprints, how to uncover the production chain for certain wares, and how to initiate station construction, providing you with concrete examples to illustrate all of my points. As I was saying in the first video, I found the subject a bit overwhelming, and at first you might do so too. But once you understand its core principles, you're going to see it's rather easy. One of the requirements I listed in part 1 was for you to reach reputation 10 with a faction of your choosing. Doing so allows you to purchase better ships, weapons, as well as station module blueprints, the last ones being acquired from faction representatives found at stations marked with this icon. Station building is modular, and this is all I'm gonna say for now because there's other prerequisites you need to fulfill, such as gaining access to the player headquarters and the research tab. Alright, let's get to work. Get into the cockpit of a fighter ship or an explorer and start flying towards any space station. Then activate your scan module and listen for data signals. Such a signal can be one of two things: a data leak or a distress signal. Here's the difference. Now, data leaks, when scanned, can give you access to trade offer discounts, and after you perform some research it can even unlock station module blueprints. Distress signals, however, lead to contact with various entities who might have certain jobs for you. Assassination, sabotage, getaway, but there's two of these missions you're going to want. The first is named a lucrative opportunity, and it tasks you with retrieving a random rare item. Perhaps a spacefly egg, or spacefly caviar, or decryption modules, or some other rare illegal ware. Once you deliver the item, you'll gain access to a black market trader who will supply you with illegal technology and offer you very good prices for small batches of illegal trade goods. More on that later. Once you unlock the services of a black marketeer aboard the station, you will see this icon with the little hat and the sunglasses. The black market dealer will also provide you with space suit bombs or EMPs, which we will use shortly. The second and more important mission involves performing some experiments for Bozo Ta, a captive boron scientist. After a while you're going to have to liberate him from his captors, at which point he'll come to work for you and unlock the research option. Note that research doesn't cost you anything, it merely takes time. The most important researches you're going to want to perform are the teleport, which is crucial, as well as module hacking. Once you research all of the module hacks, you can scan station modules and look for data leaks in order to discover their blueprints. Want a habitat blueprint? Fly to a habitat module and listen for signals. Found one? Save the game, and if you unlock a discount, reload and try again until you get the blueprint. You want space fuel production? Find a factory and scan its modules. Same for dock, storage, connection and defense modules. You're going to have to scan them if you don't want to pay. In fact, you should do so because certain blueprints can cost you tens, if not hundreds of millions. And that's just the blueprint, not the station itself. I personally bought every single module under 500k, as well as a few more expensive ones. But when I saw that I have to pay 22 million credits for a habitat module, I knew something has to be done to skip that cost. Now, flying around station modules hoping to find data leaks can take a while, and if you're impatient, you're going to have to take a more proactive approach. So approach the module you wish to unlock, get up, go out for a spacewalk, prepare your spacesuit bomb launcher, and switch to EMP bombs. Then get even closer to the module, give your current ship the order to move close to a Stargate in the same system, and prepare for mayhem. Launch the EMP bomb, wait for it to connect, then detonate it. As soon as you do this, the station turns hostile and you have to very quickly scan 4 small data leaks which just appeared as a result of your sabotage. You must do so before station security melts you into a puddle. After the scans are done and you've uncovered a blueprint, right-click your ship and teleport to it. Then simply fly through the Stargate and wait for things to cool off. Eventually the station will stop caring about your misdemeanor because, let's be honest, they're not losing any profit from you stealing the module blueprint. Once you increase your collection of module blueprints and you've amassed about 10 to 20 million credits, it's time to start building. But what? Let me give you an idea. I've personally started small with a wheat farm which was later upgraded with a space fuel module, and then another, and so on, for a total of 5 distilleries because, looking at the logical overview, I noticed that one space fuel production module consumes a fifth of the wheat produced by the farm, so it was only logical. One farm, 5 distilleries. After I had this station built, all I had to do is adjust my prices and watch the profits roll. Anyway, this was just an example to give you a bit of guidance, but I didn't yet tell you how to actually build the station. So let's start with that. First of all, you're going to want to pick a sector where you want to build your factory, which can be a choice between a lawless system with no taxes but also no security, or a sector which belongs to one of the other factions. Took a decision? Good. Now open the map and click on your desired sector. Then select Manage Plots. When you click on Create New Plot, you will have to select the size of the build area you're reserving for your station. If you know exactly what shape your station is going to take, you can tweak the direction of the plot to fit your station like a glove and cut costs. Otherwise, you can do what I've done and make the plot equal in all directions, like a cube. If you're building in civilized space, the land will have to be purchased from the faction who owns the sector, and depending on the size of the plot and its proximity to stargates and highways, the costs can get pretty big. But sometimes it can be worth it to make the investment. For a small, self-contained factory, I'd say 3 kilometers in all directions is more than enough. If you're building a bigger complex, go for 4 or 5 kilometers. Once you place the plot down and pay the price for it if needed, you can just click Continue. After this, you actually start placing modules down and building your station. For this example, I've built a large complex that is aimed at manufacturing claytronics, an important high-tech ware which is used in the construction of capital ships as well as stations. I've also planned the addition of modules to produce components needed to manufacture the main product. I even cobbled together a low-quality chart which we will discuss shortly. The way I discovered the production tree is rather simple. I knew what high-end good I wanted to produce, so I used the trade filters to look for a factory manufacturing claytronics. I then visited a factory, activated Shift 2, and gave the station a little scan. Since I was doing this, I also decided to obtain the blueprint with the method I've mentioned earlier. Once you scan a module, you can open the map, right-click the factory, and take a peek at the logical overview. Seeing the required goods for claytronics manufacture, I went to factories producing each of these goods and repeated this process and eventually worked my way down until I discovered the entire production chain. As I've said, it was really simple, just a bit time consuming. Now let us discuss the graph. So, the main product of this complex is supposed to be the claytronics. These are manufactured from quantum tubes and microchips, which we will call intermediate goods, as well as antimatter cells. You might have noticed I placed the antimatter cells in the same row as graphene, superfluid coolant, and silicon wafers, and I did so because these are what we'll call refined goods. Unlike microchips, which only use one type of refined goods, you'll see that the quantum tubes need 2 of these. These products are obviously refined from raw resources. Hydrogen, methane, and helium are gathered by gas harvesters from gas clouds, while the silicon is mined from asteroids, as I've mentioned in part 1. Inspect the map legend to see where to find each of these resources. And of course, make use of the resource probes. Last but most important are the energy cells, represented with eye-burning colors on my chart, to make it obvious that they are needed to power everything in our complex. Since I wanted the complex to produce everything by itself, I had to add every module possible, including solar panels, to ensure self-sustainability. Now that you understand the logic behind complex construction, it is time to dive into how to actually do it. You've chosen a plot size of 4 kilometers all around, placed it down and paid the price. Now you may click on Continue so you can actually start placing the modules down. The foundation of this particular station is a Paranid cross module, which points in all 6 directions. Now you could use some base modules to build towards the expansions, but I personally opted for small argon storage modules. 1 liquid storage, 1 solid storage, and 1 container storage module to the left, right, and front respectively. Most of the trade goods are deposited into containers, but gases can only be stored in liquid storage, while minerals need solid storage. Since our complex is being supplied by both minerals and gases, and it produces trade goods, we obviously need all 3 types of containers. Now that we're expanding into 3 directions, it is time to put down some dock modules. On the left and right, I chose to place standard 3M, 6S dock modules, which can accommodate a total of 6 medium ships and 12 small ships at the same time. When you place a module down, you can click to select it and then hold the right mouse button on it to rotate it at your leisure, just like you can do with the plots. Next I wanted to place down a T-shaped pier which can allow 3 capital ships to dock simultaneously, but as you can see, I couldn't find any room to place it down. My plot ain't quite big enough, so I gotta improvise. I needed to make room, so I clicked on the cross module and moved the whole station around. Yep, let me repeat. The first base module that you place down acts as the foundation of the station. You move that module, you move the whole structure. Once I was able to place down the T-pier, I could rotate it and put it in the place I wanted. I didn't mention the elongated base extension I put in between the container storage and the pier, but I needed to add that module to push the pier forward. If it's not pushed forward like that, you can't place other modules in its area of influence because it needs to reserve all that space for incoming capital ships with a desire to dock. Next up, you can notice the extension to the back of the station, done with a base module and a smaller cross-connection structure. We'll be adding more of those while building the station. These cross modules are very important because the only connector most production modules have is on the bottom, which means they can mostly be placed above cross structures. You can see this demonstrated with the Claytronics module, which I chose to place at the center of my station, right above the foundation module. Next, I placed down a missile component module, which was a mistake, quickly rectified by right-clicking and deleting it. I mistakenly saw the module beginning with an M and my mind auto-completed microchips, which was what I was actually trying to place. Next up, I wanted to add the quantum tube production, so I quickly created expansions using more liquid storage on the left wing of the complex, which were obviously connected with cross-sections. Now I can place the quantum tube and antimatter cell production modules. The right wing was expanded with some solid storage in the same manner, and then I made the decision that the immense antimatter converter is better suited near the microchip production. I rotated it a little to ensure there won't be any clipping issues. Now there's only 3 more cross sections and 3 more production modules to place. Helium, methane, and silicon refineries were quickly added. Let's take a little look around, see how the station is shaping up. Pretty nice, but the work's not done. We still need some more container storage. As you can see, there's differences between storage modules. The Argon placed theirs horizontally, while the Teladi prefer them vertical, attached on the bottom of other modules. I placed 4 of these below production modules. At this point, my complex has almost everything it needs, except housing for workforce. So I've placed 2 Argon M habitats, 1 beneath the foundation and 1 below the pier. Each M habitat houses a maximum of 500 workers. Since this is a big complex, I assume I'm going to need a lot more, especially because the modules I've placed so far are not enough. They're just placed so I can see the exact number of wares each module produces, and after I make some more calculations, I'll add even more modules in order to optimize the production. So even this big complex we've assembled so far is not a complete station yet, even though it has all it needs to be considered as such. I'll talk about how to optimize the station in part 3, for now we need to add the finishing touches, namely the solar power plant modules on both the left and right wings of the station. The last thing you need to do once you're done adding modules is move the whole station in an optimal spot, which will allow you to add expansions when the optimization stage begins. Now, while you're still in the planning stage, it's a good idea to make adjustments and move your station around because once the construction of a module begins, you'll be unable to move it around. Here's the thing though, once you're done with the planning stage and you confirm the construction, the whole thing isn't set in stone. You can click Plan, Build and rearrange the modules at your leisure as long as they haven't been constructed. This is also how you'll add expansions once you've made additional calculations. And if you're dissatisfied with the way a station has been built, you can always deconstruct modules and reconstruct them in another place. Just be careful when it comes to storage and habitat modules. Robbing your workforce of their housing and leaving them to float in space isn't something a smart CEO does. Once you're done planning and want to start the building process, you need to search for a nearby construction ship and pay a fee of 50,000 credits to hire them to build your station. The satellite network we've placed in part 1 can help with that. You may also purchase your own construction ship, but I personally cannot justify spending 12 million for that. It will need to build 240 stations just to break even. Now that this is done, the very last thing you need to do is supply your station with a budget that can cover the cost of the construction materials. You can adjust the price for each of these materials, and if you have your own fleet of freighters and the patience needed to micromanage the purchase of these materials yourself, you can cut the construction costs in half. But if you don't, make sure you pay the maximum price for them to motivate other freelancers to bring these materials to you. Now, when a station construction begins, it will automatically be assigned a construction storage, where materials to build the station are stored. Obviously, while the cache of materials increases, the constructor ship will wait patiently for them to be delivered. Once there's enough parts to build the first module, the constructor will proceed, and then it'll wait for components for the second and the third and so on. These modules will be built in the exact order that you place them in the planning stage to ensure a smooth construction process and avoid any unpleasantness with floating production modules drifting through space away from the construction site. There's one type of module I haven't mentioned, and that's the defensive type. Their sole purpose is to be equipped with weaponry, and the moment an enemy gets in range of your station's guns, he'll get lit up. The way you add weapons to these defensive modules ain't complicated. You purchase the weapon blueprints from the faction representative, and then, from the planning screen, you right-click the defense module and select Edit Loadout. Then you select the weapons of your choosing and you're done. You just need to wait for construction. I personally don't use defense modules on my stations, as I prefer having a few heavy combat ships patrolling around. But if I were to recommend a weapon for these modules, I would 100% choose plasma cannons. These work really well in conjunction with the patrol ships. The Guardians would dispatch small enemy ships, while the plasma cannons would rip a destroyer to shreds. But if you can't build any defensive modules and you can't afford patrol ships, your station's modules could be destroyed. I had that happen to me early on in the game. I didn't even rebuild it anymore, I just deconstructed all of the remaining modules and sold the parts. Yes, that is something you can do and it had to be mentioned. But I don't yet know if you can sell the plot back to get a refund. While the station is being built, I advise you to forget about it and do something else. Ship capture, crystal mining, blueprint acquisition, do whatever you want because the construction will take a very long time. Just the microchip production module alone took over an hour and 40 minutes to be built. And you might notice that the countdown moves very quickly in this footage, but this is because I am using the time accelerator to significantly speed things up. If you don't have a time accelerator yet, you might want to head over to Faulty Logic and blow up a few hundred Xenon ships until you get the 3 components needed for building this item. The programmable field array is quite common, dropping from nearly 25% of the Xenon ships you destroy. The damage singularity engine can sometimes be found in the wrecks of Xenon and Cox ships, while the flux capacitor is extremely rare. In my 60 hours of playtime I've only seen 2 of these drop, one from a Xenon P and the other from a Xenon N. If you're lucky, you're going to find the FC before the station completes its construction. Once you have all 3 of these, you just need to head to the nearest crafting workbench and assemble the SETA. Then you will have it installed on all of your ships and can be activated with Shift 4 to speed everything up. Warning! Time acceleration has its risks, mainly the loss of your other ships because you're not paying attention to their problems. Use it responsibly. By the way, when the station is built, you should appoint one of your people as a manager to ensure that your operation is running smoothly. In fact, you don't even need to wait for the full construction, you can do so as soon as the first landing pad is complete. Take a look at one of your trading or mining ships, click on personnel and analyze the skills of its captain. If his management skill is below 2 stars, don't even bother, look for another one of your captains. And when you find one with a decent management skill, order him to land his ship on the new station. Then simply contact him and tell him to work as a manager on the new station.
Acknowledged.
Great! Now this manager will ensure that any ships working on the station will do their jobs, among other things. Don't forget to go back to the ship and click Promote Best Crewman to Captain, otherwise nobody will dare take the helm and the ship won't fly anymore. These managers will be needed to direct subordinates as well as pay you when the station makes a profit, but we'll talk more about these next time. For now, we gotta bring part 2 to a close because it's already 19 minutes long. Thank you for watching and see you in part 3 when the time comes to discuss station optimization.